Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast. These are the stories of those who have received, given, and who are waiting for the gift of life, organ transplantation. Now here's your host and heart and kidney recipient, BJ Odom.
Welcome to Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant podcast, a place where we journey through the incredible world of organ transplantation. I'm your host, BJ Odom. Each week we uncover inspiring stories and meet extraordinary individuals who are connected to the world of transplants. Remember to support us by leaving that 5-star review and subscribing on your preferred podcast platform. Don't forget you can join us on Facebook, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. Today we talk to Evelyn Cologne, a very exciting young lady, I must say. As we continue through the month of August to celebrate National Multiethnic Donor Awareness Month, Evelyn is a dedicated advocate for organ, tissue, and eye donation. Since 2008, she received a liver transplant herself. So why don't you just tell us a little about yourself, Evelyn?
I am a 72-year-old woman. I was born and raised in Brooklyn. I'm a Brooklyn gal. You may be able to tell from my accent. I don't know.
Forget about it.
Forget about it. I was born and raised in New York. Both my parents are both originally from Puerto Rico. I was born in Brooklyn. And I have 2 grandkids, a grandson who just turned 30 and a granddaughter who turned 27. They're both married. I have 5 great-grandchildren from the age of 12 and down. I am, thank God, I've been married for over 30 years to a wonderful man who helped me through all of this. I've had my little ups and downs again, but my gratitude I can't put into words. I've had 3 hip transplants, and he's been through them all with me. I had a heart attack on June 23rd of last year. I had 2 stents put in the right side of my heart and 2 on the left side. And I'm doing great. I don't feel anything. I had no palpitations, nothing. I take my meds and I'm good to go. I received the precious, precious most gift of life, a liver transplant, January 7th, 2008. I went into surgery at 5:42 in the afternoon. I understand my husband says it took 9 hours. After transplant, well, let me go back a little bit. I didn't have the experience of getting the phone call because this is a double blade, as they say. I was hospitalized with kidney failure, so I was in the hospital. I was on dialysis, and while I was in the hospital, the nurse came in about 2 weeks later with a bottle of betadine, and she said, "Here, Miss Cologne, you need to wash up because we have a liver for you." Oh, I was excited. Yes, you can imagine what you feel like from tears and crying and who died and how old are they and their parents and praying for their parents. Thank you for me, but Lord, please bless these parents. Please give them strength. They told me it was a 33-year-old male, and I have a 47-year-old son, a 52-year-old daughter, and a 54-year-old son. So the first thing I thought about, of course, one of my kids, so it's very emotional, and I still get emotional. I'm sorry.
No problem at all. I know a lot of times when I talk about I've had a heart transplant and a kidney transplant, and I had a donor mother on a few weeks ago who talked about the first time. Now we'll both get crying, but she talked about the first time she heard her son's heartbeat in another human being, and as myself being a heart transplant patient, that was a blessed interview. But at that moment, I mean, you could hear my voice crack up in the interview as I got,
I think it's normal that happens. That'll happen to us forever. And Because we put ourselves in the place of others, and that's when you have sympathy, for others. Anyway, and they told me it was a 33-year-old. He died in a car accident. And of course, my husband was there and the kids were there. We all just hugged and prayed for the family first. And then, of course, we all jumped up and down. And dear Lord, thank you. I can't believe it. And anyway, I went into the shower. I took a shower with the betadine, came out. And like I said, my surgery was at 5:42. They started in the afternoon. After my transplant, I was in the hospital for a while only because I had the kidney failure and I was on dialysis. And while I was in the hospital, the nephrologist came in and said, well, Evelyn, make plans for being on dialysis and going on the kidney transplant list. And of course, I cried and puffed, but I said, well, okay, no problem. It is what it is. We like to cruise, my husband and I. First thing my husband did, poor baby, he came in, I told him, I said, baby, I'm going on dialysis because my kidneys may not come back after I get the liver transplant. There's a slim to none chance, the doctor said, that my kidneys would come back. And he hugged me and he called Carnival Cruise Line, and they have dialysis on Carnival Cruise Line, believe it or not.
Now, I have heard that. I've heard a few of the cruise lines now do have dialysis for dialysis patients, which is truly amazing and a blessing.
It is amazing. And because the first thing I said, baby, no more cruising, no more cruising. He said, well, let's find out. You don't know. We've never needed it, so we don't know. And we found out, yes, they do. They do have dialysis. Anyway, jumping up a little bit, after my transplant, fortunately, the day of, a couple of hours later, I believe even before my anesthesia wore off, my kidneys started functioning amazingly enough. It came right back. It jumped right back. So I never needed the dialysis. That's why I say I respect the doctors wholeheartedly, of course. But my faith is my faith. And what I feel he should have measured his words and maybe have said, Evelyn, there's a big possibility, even if he told me 90%, that your kidneys may not come back. But he said, your kidneys are not going to come back, and you'll prepare yourself. I guess he wanted me to make arrangements for dialysis. I respect that too, I guess. But no, my kidneys came right back. I was only on dialysis for maybe 2 or 3 weeks. After transplant, it came right back. Everything started working perfectly. From the time I received my transplant, 9 days later, I was discharged.
Awesome.
I was discharged. Yes, I was discharged, went home, did whatever I have to do. I'm real compliant. I follow rules to a T. I didn't drive till 30 days, even though in a week, 2 weeks, I was ready to take the wheel. No, I was ready. And I can't because I was told not to, so I better not. And everything went fine. In 2014 is when I started getting some bumps on my abdomen. I had, let me just first, how that happened. I had hepatitis and liver cancer. That's what caused me to receive a liver transplant. I tried the treatment, the hepatitis treatment before transplant, but that didn't work. I almost bled to death from everywhere. So they stopped it. They said, no, let's go ahead and just do the transplant. After the transplant was done, in 2014, they decided to try to get the hepatitis virus out of my system again, and that worked. But right after the treatment, about 6 months after I completed literally almost a year of the treatment, and I am clear now, I am Hep C clear, and that treatment gave me is what they're saying, the doctors are saying, led me to have psoriasis. And that is, it's terrible, but it's not going to kill me. I won't die from it, but it's horrible because it's all over your body and your legs and your arms. Well, my face a little bit, my forehead, and I deal with it. Nothing a little makeup can fix, you know what I mean? But yeah. And they have wonderful, wonderful injections and medication for psoriasis, but I chose not to. At my age, if I were maybe even 50, I might have, but I don't have a complex. I don't live. I guess I'm so grateful for everything I've been through, and I don't need to worry about a little speck here and there on my body. So I decided not to because it damages your liver. You have to have a blood test every single week if you go on any type of medication while having a liver transplant. Liver medication is very strong, very, very strong. So you have to have a lab test every 5 days. And I didn't feel like being bothered with all that. So I just do my natural creams, my aloe vera, a little medication here and there, topical only. I don't take anything orally for the psoriasis at all. But I'm doing great. Before transplant, it was a nightmare. It was. You think of everything you'd like to do and can't do, but already did before. So I was like grateful. Well, I did it once. I can't do it now, but I'm okay. I did it then, and I did it. You know, that's the way I look at things. I always see the glass half full. I come from a very, 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 very poor family with a lot of love. My dad raised us. He raised 5 of us on his own. But the love that was there is just, I don't even see it now in the streets and the families. He raised me with a lot of love, a lot of love. And I think that makes the difference. Money helps. Hey, I'm not going to be here and be a hypocrite, but he had a restaurant, so he raised us. We had food, everything we needed. I never had a pair of roller skates, but I can roller skate my little butt off. I never owned I've never owned a bike, but honey, I can ride the bike. I never owned a pair of ice skates, but I can ice skate. Well, maybe not now with my arthritis, but the love that I had, that I was raised with, I think made me who I am today. And being raised by a man, a little strong-handed, never spanked me. Oh no, everybody calls me Evie. He goes, Evie or Mommy. Latin people call their kids Mommy and Poppy. I'm not sure if you're aware of that.
Oh,
but
yeah.
My daddy called them. Yeah, my dad, when Dad would say, Mommy, come here, I'd go smiling. But when he say, Evelyn, I'm crying. I didn't do it. What did I do, Daddy? I didn't do anything.
Now did your middle name get called out in that too? Like, was it Evelyn, whatever your middle name is? Because that's when I knew I was in trouble, because everybody's always called me BJ. But if I heard Brian Joe, I know, oh boy, there's something going on.
No, I don't have a middle name, and I'm jealous because my brothers and sisters do have a middle name, and I don't. He gave me a nickname, Evie.
Oh, okay.
So when he called me Evie or Mommy, I'm good to go. When he said Evelyn, I was already crying. And I think I was the favorite, BJ. I'm just saying. I think so. All I have to do is shed a tear.
Well, you know what? We've only been on the air, for about 3 minutes, and I think you're one of my favorites too. So just to let you know.
Oh, you're so kind. You're so kind. Thank you. Yeah, and I also had tissue. My gums, my lower gums were separating from my teeth, and I had tissue transplant on my lower gums in 2015.
Oh, wow.
And another blessing. Yeah, I sure did.
Now, was that from any of the medication or anything, or was it just something that happened?
Yes, that's what they're saying. It was only one tooth, and they said it was from the medication, from being sick the 2 years. I was on the waiting list for 2 years.
Okay.
And everything. I even had cataract from the, the fluid pills gave me cataract, he said. Yeah, these medications are great for us, but they have a double life to them. One negative and one positive. Yeah, that went well. Mm-hmm. That went great. So I'm truly, truly, truly blessed, I have to say. I'm able to I eat everything and anything. I'm careful, of course, with the sugar, but thank God I'm still good. I'm not a diabetic. And interesting enough, I come from a diabetic. My great-grandmother was a diabetic. My grandmother was a diabetic. My biological mother, I understand, was a diabetic. My sister right now is on insulin. I have a brother who got kidney disease, got a kidney transplant and died 5 years later. And I have two sisters right now that are only on metformin. And by the grace of God, BJ, believe, I don't know if you've heard, people that get liver transplants, most of them, I'm going to dare say over 50% of us get diabetes. And if it's genetic.
Now, I was going to say, too, I went through the heart transplant, and I know my sugars went up immediately following that because of the prednisone, but then it went away.
Yes.
And I was back to normal. But then after my kidney, once again, my sugars went up. Thank goodness and thank God that I'm only on a pill right now, but I do have to watch my sugar very closely.
You're on metformin?
No, I just take a pill, and it's not even an injection. It's just a pill, and and I really watch my sugar too. So thank goodness, I'm still in a good zone with just the pill. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and that's very important. I am triply blessed, and I know God has blessed me from the day I opened my eyes. I do feel fortunate, but my sugar, and I'll admit I probably eat more sugar than I should, but my labs come out 89, 90. My husband looks at me and says, "How could you?" And I tell my patients when I'm talking to them, everybody's different. Everybody's metabolism is different. Now, I do drink a gallon of water a day. That I do. I drink 16.9 ounces of a bottle of water. I wake up very early in the morning, even if I just get up to watch TV. I get up about 5:30. That's my first bottle. And from there, I have 4 other ones. By 8 o'clock at night, I've drank my 5 bottles. Very, very important. My creatinine is wonderful. My sugar's right on. And I think water, they tell us when you're on program, tacrolimus, we need to drink a lot of water. They tell us that. Are you drinking a lot of water, BJ?
Yes, I do. And another thing I drink, and I don't know, I've never really had a doctor tell me to drink it, but I think it helps maybe. I always, not every day, but at least every other day, I usually have a little bit of green tea.
Okay. I understand that us livers, again, I see them once a year. I thought as a liver, I wasn't supposed to drink green tea, but I have green tea here because my husband drinks it. And he drinks it cold and he drinks it hot. Maybe I should just call my coordinator and ask her. That was so many years ago. I need to ask because I love tea.
Yeah.
And maybe the green tea does help.
Now, I know the green tea is not too bad on me, but if I drink the normal tea, like the black tea, it has more caffeine. And so with a heart transplant, I feel my heart tick up a little bit. But with the green tea, it seems to be pretty good. And I hope it's not hurting my kidneys, but no one has said not to really. So I could be being
How
a bad.
often do you have your?
Okay, I had the heart transplant in 2003, and then I lost my kidneys around 2014, and 2015 I had my kidney transplant.
Oh, you were blessed. People are waiting years for kidneys.
Yeah, I always tell people at least back when I was doing stand up, I says I got more parts than a chicken McNugget.
Good parts, though. Real good parts.
Good parts for sure.
Oh, yeah. I do drink a lot of water, and I was told at the time of transplant to be sure I drink lots of water. I have my labs done every 3 months.
I think it's the same with me.
Yeah, and I only take 1 milligram of Prograf in the morning and 1 in the evening. I'm only on 2 milligrams a day, which is pretty good. I think that's the least we can do, 1 milligram. And that, I guess, makes a difference on the amount of tacrolimus we took. In the very beginning, I took about 8 in the morning and 8 in the evening when they first did my transplant. And as the years have gone by, for the past 5 years, I was on 3-2. And now for the past 2 years, I'm only on 1 milligram in the morning and 1 in the evening, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, that is.
And I'm nice. Yeah, and I'm not on any, of course, I'm on my heart medication, the Eliquis, blood thinner, and so forth and so on. But for my transplant, I was given Cellcept, and as soon as I left the pharmacy and got home, Brenda calls me and says, Evelyn, don't take the Cellcept. I said, oh, no, I just got it. It was $800. Of course, you can't bring it back, even if it's closed and zippered and stapled and everything. But I wasn't even on Cellcept. The only meds that I was given for my post-transplant was prednisone. They took me off after about 3 years. And the tacrolimus, that's it. I wasn't on any of the other medications that I hear some people are on after transplant, several medications.
Yeah, I'm on cyclosporin twice a day and Myfortic twice a day. And I think it's the cyclosporin is what took down my kidneys, but they've got me on a much lower dose than they did. So, and everything seems to be working fine. So that's good.
Yeah, that's good. That's real good. As long as it's working fine and you do your labs every month. I mean, she even said, you can do your labs every 6 months, Evelyn. I said, no, it doesn't bother me to have my labs because remember, if you can reject at any time. It doesn't matter. And you don't know you're rejecting unless very seldom do we have any symptoms at rejection. So I'm going to have my labs done every 3 months. And God forbid I'm rejecting, you can try to catch it ahead of time. But no, I don't want to do it. It doesn't bother me to have my labs done. It's about me. I'm taking care of myself. So if there is a rejection, no problem. They'll go ahead and do whatever they have to do. I know people that have it done once a year. That's not me, though. I'd rather just be safe than sorry. And compliance makes a big difference. I'm too old to get another transplant because, as you know, there's no age limit on donating, but there can be an age limit to receive an organ.
Yeah, I'm getting at that age now where if anything else goes, I'm on my own, as they say.
Yeah, but you know what, BJ? Just the other day, I read a 73-year-old person got a transplant. So there are rules to be broken because this person, the first thing I thought about, boy, this person is healthy as heck. If they're exceptionally healthy and in good shape and whatever the reason, she got a transplant at 73. So that gives me hope for other people. Not for me, I'm past it, but for other people, because if you're real healthy, why shouldn't you get a transplant? So that excited me, and I got real happy for that person who got a transplant at 73. And I know the cutoff point, from what I understand, it was 72, even 70, but they'll extend it to 72 if you're in excellent shape. There are a few of us who are in excellent shape at 72.
I don't know if I'd say excellent, but I'm in pretty good shape, but not excellent.
Not at that age. Well, this person that got a transplant was in darn good shape to receive a transplant, right?
Now, I also hear that you go out a lot and do a lot of speaking engagements and really promote, organ and tissue donation, and you're a big advocate for those waiting for transplants. Yes. What are some of the things you do?
Okay, for example, Saturday on the 27th of June, we have a big back-to-school bash. What happens is LifeLink, a London hunter, they look for events that are going on in the communities. And this event, for example, they have several ones. During this month, they have back-to-school events where you're talking about hundreds of people attend these events because it's usually for low-income communities, and because I'm Hispanic, they have to call me, and I beg them to call me because Hispanics and African-American Blacks, we are the worst. We are the worst for organ donation. And I'll give you an example. I was raised where taboo to speak about death. Oh, you don't talk about death because then you're going to die. That's the way I was raised. Life insurance? Are you kidding me? You don't do life insurance because that's planning for death. You don't plan for death. If it happens, it happens. But then you have to go around begging people for money to bury your loved one. I'm just saying. So my legacy is to make it as important as I can and advocate the importance of being an organ donor. Right now, 80% of 103,000 people that are waiting nationwide, 80% are us, Hispanics and African Americans. And I'm just saying this because of the way we eat. I say it's mostly because of the way we eat. And it's a big deal. And I can talk to people, Spanish and Blacks, because I am Spanish. So I can get down to the nitty gritty and they won't feel offended. You know, now everything is so politically incorrect and politically right. So I make sure I say things to a T. And I mean, Spanish is my first language, and I definitely speak Spanish better than I do English. But I can get across because I can say these little innuendos really cute. And after I finish with them, they say, "Give me the card, Evelyn. Give me, I'll sign. Give it to me."
Well,
Yeah, but you have to watch what you say. But say it correct. It's not what we say; it's how we say it. So that is my legacy: to get as many people to register to become organ donors as I can. So we have a little. We put a table. These big bashes, LifeLink puts a table and little trinkets. So we attract them with free, if it's free, it's for me. We have little trinkets that we give the kids. We have a lot of information about organ donation, and we speak to people about the importance of organ donation. And I think I'm really good at it. And I think I'm only good at it because I believe in it wholeheartedly. I've always been an organ donor. It's just something that just never dawned on me not to. If I die, when I die, if I can help anybody, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a scientist, if I can help somebody live, oh my goodness, what a miracle is that? If I can help give life to somebody else, that's just something unbelievable, unspoken of, and I can do that, so why not? So I did register. And my husband has seen the coin of both sides. His wife died in a car accident when she was 33, same as my donor was 33. His wife died at the age of 33 in a car accident. He lost his wife and his mother-in-law. The daughter and the mother died in a car accident. And he says that's the hardest thing he's ever done, and probably the hardest he'll ever have to do, say yes to organ donation. He was an organ donor, but never really thought about his wife dying. Is something you don't think about. And when she passed, it was very, very, very difficult for him. But she was an organ donor. And here, as the world turns, as everything goes, he sees, like Dalcina said, he had never seen that case where not only is he a donor husband, but his wife received. That's just really something. It's just something to really think about it, and you have to be an organ donor. So that's what I do. I speak to people everywhere. Sometimes I talk to a department store, Walmart, Walgreens, and I ask them, I introduce myself, and I say, I'm an advocate for organ donation. I received a liver transplant. I set up a little table here and give trinkets to the people as they come in and ask them if they'd like to be organ donors. Everybody usually says, yes, sure, go ahead. Stand in that little corner near makeup, near cosmetic or whatever. But I will do that, BJ, till the day I can't walk anymore. Or maybe I'll do it in a wheelchair if I have to. I think it's so important that we educate. And it's not that, I think it's simply because we're afraid of death. Well, I'm not. I've seen it in the face. But Hispanics and Blacks are very afraid of death. That's something we don't talk about. That's something that it's taboo in just about every family I know. And that's why I'm out here. We have very few Hispanic volunteers, very, very, very few. But I will give back because it's my obligation. It's my duty to give back. And this is something I have to do. And besides enjoying it, if you love what you do, you're going to do it well, and you're going to do it as long as you can.
And I can tell just I can tell just by talking to you that you love people. And when you love people, that's what you do, right?
I do. You're absolutely right. Yes, I love.
I was just going to say, I did an interview with another liver patient, a liver transplant patient. And this is a sad story, but it kind of, if you can just imagine your life ahead of time, because what this gentleman told me was that he lost his wife, unfortunately. And, he had the opportunity to donate her organs, but he didn't. And now he's
Oh.
went through all of this, and now himself, he has been, saved by an organ donor. And he's saying if he
Oh,
had it
wow.
all to do over again, if he only knew what he knew now, and if he could just go back, he would have 100% said yes. And so maybe people should think about that every once in a while. Just think about possibly the future, and I think that's what was one of the strongest statements I've ever heard anyone make, that
Wow.
no, I didn't. But boy, if I knew then what I know today, I would have been
Wow.
there 100%.
What an honest person. You have to admire that. He didn't have to say that. Very honest. I mean,
Yeah.
he didn't do it, but I can understand him not doing it, because if we're not taught something, we can't learn how to deal with it. This is something that we need to teach the little ones. LifeLink belongs to the Boys and Girls Club. We speak to 5 and 6 year olds once a year. We go to public schools, and I speak from the first grade to 12. Of course, we present it not so God. We present it in a different way where the kids have fun. And my husband, I have a chart that my husband drew a liver, he drew all the organs, and they learn about organs. And usually when I ask, does anyone know? And sometimes they say yes. Oh, I know my friend had a transplant, even if they don't get the gist of it. So, oh yeah, my mother's friend had a transplant, my father's friend had a transplant. And it's something that you want to plant that little seed in there. And eventually they will see it and they read about it. Every time we speak to them, to anybody, we plant that little seed, and they'll think about it one day. I mean, right now we have 103,000 people waiting on the list, and 17 people die every single day waiting for an organ. I remember not long ago, maybe a couple of years ago, when there were 120,000 people on the national list. So this kind of makes me feel, not a little better. 103 from 120, a 17%, which is not bad. And every day, 17 people die waiting for an organ. So how fortunate will we be, BJ, that we didn't, whether I waited 2 years, but worth every day, every second, every hour. And I did get it. I wasn't part of the statistics. So that's very important. That's what I have to share with people. I have to share the importance. And because I've been there, can't say done that, but I've been there and I understand a little bit about what it is to be near death. And it can happen to anybody. It can happen to anybody, and any one of our family members. It can happen anytime, any day. We have to be conscious of our surroundings, of what's going on, and we have to just spread the news, spread the word. And that's what I will do always, BJ. Always, 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 always. That's what I will do. And one person can save up to 8 lives. My husband did receive, and now I get it. At first, I was a little upset because I hadn't received my liver, but I said, baby, he said he received 4 letters, apparently from 4 recipients of different organs. And I said, did you respond? He said, no. I said, oh, wow, why didn't you respond? And he explained to me, I understand only 2% or less of our donor families respond to us. I send a letter twice a year just thanking them. And of course, with thinking of the date, that I think of my donor every single day. Oh, I pray to my donor's family every day, and I thank God for my donor every single waking day, as I thank God for giving me another day. But I understand why he didn't write. So when I write my letters, I'm not expecting a response, but apparently they're receiving it and we have to go through LifeLink to send a letter through. Our coordinator sends it to LifeLink. If they haven't told me to stop writing, that means they don't want to open that wound again, leave it alone. They're happy for me and excited that I'm living and going through everything positive, but I understand them not wanting to respond. My husband didn't, and I get it now. Not since I had a transplant, I get it that people don't want to respond. And as I said, 2% or less of donors respond, and I get it. I understand not wanting to respond.
And that was a very hard letter for me to write, actually, because,
Oh,
my brain was telling me, oh, I feel so good, I want to tell him. And then the other part of my brain was saying, no, I don't want to tell him how great I'm doing. But I've talked to
yeah.
it, like I said, though, by doing this podcast, I've talked to a few donor families, and surprisingly, and I don't think they're all that way, but some, when they hear that you're doing well, it makes them feel at least a little better than maybe they did the day before from losing that loved
Absolutely.
one. So I'm learning a lot during
Oh,
this
I
podcast.
agree with you. Oh, I agree with you 100%. Yeah. And they have very few, they've told us about bad experiences. But I've heard one bad experience with someone who went ahead and found out who their donor was, and now they've gotten a little strict about it. But how dare you approach a donor family and say, I think I have your son's liver, or I have your daughter's heart? How dare they do that?
Yeah.
And someone did do that. Yeah, that's hard. But most of the donor family, we have a donor reception, and it just passed in May that LifeLink does. They invite over 300 or more donor families that come, and we honor them. And people talk about what they've received, and all these donor families, the ones I've met, are very happy to know that somebody's doing well because of their son, because of their loved ones or their husband. They're very happy. It's very positive for them to hear that we're doing well.
Well, I've told
Very
this.
positive.
I've told this story many times on the podcast already, but as I said, I did stand-up comedy for a time, and I even, after my heart transplant, I did some comedy shows, and like probably one of the first few comedy shows that I did after my transplant, maybe 6 months after, maybe even 9, I don't know when it was, but I talked a little bit about my transplant. I didn't make fun of it, but I talked about it and made people aware, and I.
In life, yeah.
Yeah. So after the show, I had this big burly guy come up to me and say, my brother died 2 weeks ago and he was an organ donor. Is it true you received a heart transplant? And I was a little nervous. I'll tell you, I was a little nervous. I said, yes, I did.
Yeah.
And then he took me and hugged me like you would not believe. I just squeezed me.
Yes,
And said,
I would believe.
and he goes, I know you didn't get his heart, but I know somebody did. And I know somebody like you that is continuing in life. I saw a glimpse of my brother up there on stage tonight while you were performing. And that was like probably one of the greatest moments of a transplant's life, in all honesty, at least mine.
Oh, yes. And I agree. Yes. Most of the donors and families that I've met are very happy to meet the person. I mean, to hear about it, at least. They don't want to meet us because, like I said, it's a low percentage, but they're happy to hear that we're doing well. Definitely lightens their day. And LifeLink is very much in touch with the donor families. Very much in touch, sends them trinkets, invites them to speak. Like I said, we have a remembrance of our donors once a year. It's a big honor to all our donors. Oh, yes. And we have at LifeLink, I don't know if they have a chart of life on the walls. They have every year, they print the names of the people who gave, the donors, the name of the donors. And they have big, I'm going to say it's like a quilt. They have the quilt of life. My husband's wife died years ago, but I asked them, can I honor my husband's wife? And I brought a picture of her and we put it on that quilt. So they have so many quilts that year of the people that died. You can bring a picture of the person you lost, your loved one, bring a photograph of them and put it on that quilt. And they honor every year at the remembrance, they honor those people who died in 2024, for example, and gave. In 2023 was one of our best years. 46,000 transplants were done. And during the COVID, it was fabulous. Isn't that amazing? I mean, a lot of lives were saved. Let me put it that in those words sounds a little better. A lot of people's lives were saved. 46,000, that's a lot. And that's a lot.
Well, Evelyn, I thank you so much for sharing with us today. It's much appreciated, and continued success with you. And if there is, as we close out today's podcast, anything you'd like to tell the folks that are listening before we let you go that maybe we didn't give you an opportunity yet to say?
Yes, BJ, I'd like to tell everybody who's listening, please think about organ donation. One person can save up to 8 lives. Right now, we have 103,000 people waiting. As I said, one person can save 8 lives. Just consider it. It's easy to do. You can go to www.donatelifeflorida.org, or you can just go on your telephone and go to the health icon and you can register there, or you can register at the Driver's License Bureau when you're having your license changed or it expired and renewing it. Please consider it. It's something that you'll never regret doing. Remember, you have one life, and if you can give back, please do. Thank you so much, BJ. It's been a pleasure and an honor to talk to you.
Thank you again, Evelyn, and what an amazing story, and thank you so much for sharing. Join us again next week for another touching episode, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. If you have a transplant story and you'd like to share, reach out to us, giftoflifepodcast@gmail.com. Follow us on Facebook, Gift of Life, the Organ Transplant Podcast. Until next week, I'm BJ Oderman. Thank you so much for being a part of our journey, reminding us all to appreciate each day and to cherish the extraordinary gift of life.